Good afternoon. Thank you for having me at the Central Asia Game Show. This is my second time being at the conference. I was here in 2020, so I'm very thrilled to be back. My name is Mike Bodie. I work as an English language actor, and voice director. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about working with actors. There we go. Now I know how to work a remote control. I trained at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art in London. I work in theater and film. I also work in television as well. And occasionally I will work in motion capture as well, mocap. Here are some of the previous titles that I've worked on as an English language voice actor. I'll just leave that there for a moment because the pictures can be quite small if you are far away. Thank you. I also work on a lot of things I can't talk about due to confidentiality agreements. So if you ask me about it, I probably won't tell you. I also work as a voice director, telling actors how to act better or to do their job. I also work as a proofreader and script editor for games in English language. So why is it that we have actors in games to begin with? Well, sound is the first sense for me. When you are a baby in the womb, you can't see with your eyes because it's dark. You can feel things, but you don't know what you're feeling. And nature puts two fears into you, loud noises and heights. So if you hear something loud, you're probably going to get scared. If you're on a tall building and you look down, that's also probably scary. You don't need to speak any language to know that loud things and gravity can be dangerous. Having vocal audio in a game increases the perceived production value of that game. Because voiceover can be expensive, having the presence of vocal audio in the game gives the perception that the project has a higher budget, as opposed to being cleverly constructed. The method of speech is a passive way under which information can be conveyed to the player. So as opposed to the player reading text on the screen, if they are playing the game and listening to the speech, information can be passed along more efficiently as opposed to having to sit and wait and read the text and then continuing playing. Having the vocal audio mid-gameplay and as a part of the gameplay helps to keep the experience immersive and streamlined. Also, I apologize if any of the Russian is incorrect. I blame Google. So, there are two ways of getting vocal audio into your game. You can either hire a vendor who will do primarily outsourcing for vocal audio in the game, or you do it yourself. So I'm going to talk about both ways. So, if you outsource the audio, the studio will acquire and select actors based on the information that you have given them for what you need in your game. They'll generally go through an auditioning process where the actors will record scripts that you have given to the outsourcing company or the vendor, who will then give those to the actors for them to record and to submit back to the vendor or the outsourcing company to filter through to find the best ones. And so, for example, you might have 100 people submit for one role. The outsourcing company will listen to all 100, and they might pick the best 10, so the top 10 out of 100 submissions. Then those 10 submissions will be sent to you, the game developer, for you to pick which one you want. And that's called an audition process or a casting process. The outsourcing company will generally supply the recording facilities as well. So as opposed to you, the game developer, having to source the recording facilities, an outsourcing company, at least in Europe from my experience, generally provides the recording facility for you to record the actors at. They'll also help with dialogue they'll help with organizing the dialogue. You'll probably provide file naming conventions, and they will handle all of the casting and the voice recording for you on their end. That's essentially what you're paying them for. If you do it yourself, If you do it yourself, you'll need to find the voice actors, you'll need to provide the recording studios, and you might have to direct the actors yourself unless you've hired an external voice director to do that. And your audio team will handle more of the post-production on the vocal audio that you get from the actors. Generally, at least in my experience, a lot of voice actors who work remotely will provide their own recording studios as a part of the package or the product of being a voice actor and recording remotely as well. So, how do we find voice actors? This is always the $1 million or the 100 million ruble question. So, the first way is through recommendations. Generally, if you work in game dev, you probably have friends who also work in game dev. There's the chance that they might have hired actors for a game that they've worked on. You might ask them, hey, I played your game. I like the actor in that game. What's their name? Maybe I can contact them and ask if they would like to audition for my project. So recommendations is probably your strongest place to start if you're doing this, if you're doing the recording of voice actors for a game yourself. Another way might be if that actor or voice actor has an agent or a manager, which is somebody who works on their behalf to help find them work and auditions. And then the agent or manager will take a commission from having found that work if that work is secured by the actor. So managers and agents will have a roster or a list of actors whom they represent, both in a work capacity and a legal capacity, and you can contact them and say, hey, we have an audition, we'd like some of your actors to audition for our project, here's the text, here's the deadline we want it delivered by, here's how we want the file name, all of the admin work. You can also contact your favorite voice actors. If you happen to have played a game and you love the performance of somebody in any language of game, you can try and find them on Twitter or on social media, reach out to them and contact them and say, hey, we loved your work in this title you did previously. We would like you to come and audition for our game. There's also Twitter, which can be like sticking your hand into a tank full of hungry piranhas. In a lot of cases, when developers want to cast on Twitter, it is not uncommon to get about 1,000 submissions. But then that's 1,000 submissions you have to listen to find somebody. Maybe you find somebody in the first 1 or 2 of those 1,000 submissions and you think, they'll do, they're perfect, I'll take them. And you forget everybody else. But it's not uncommon to get a lot. And Twitter is a dangerous place from an admin perspective of finding voice actors. So, a great place to start as far as finding voice actors go is to find voice actors who have previous experience of working in games or voice actors who have played games a lot. It's a lot easier to explain certain pieces of text and certain portions of the script that the voice actor is recording or auditioning with if they have an understanding of game mechanics. So so in English we call it a bark, when we have a character who has to give a very short piece of information like, get down, watch out, I'm throwing a grenade, oh no, I'm hurt, oh no, I'm dying, etc. And if I said to somebody, we're going to do barks, they might not know what that is if they're not familiar with the mechanics of games. It's also a good idea to check the credits of the actor you're working with. Actors have been known to inflate their work, and they might sort of lie a little bit about what they've been working in just so they can get ahead. It's always a good idea to check what their exact credentials are. There's a difference between a voiceover and a voice actor. People who work in radio or on television commercials whereby they are only using their voice are not always trained actors. They might not know how to perform emotionally and to a very deep emotional level solely because of the work that they have done throughout their career. So voice actors over a voiceover is generally preferable from an ability to perform emotionally. let's say you're not sure about the actor that you have found. It's perfectly fine and acceptable to ask for multiple rounds of auditioning. So you might give them one script and you like what they've done, but you want to see if they can handle a very specific scene in the game. So you give them a second script to record. And maybe they are able to handle the performance of it, and they do a really good job. And then that's perfectly fine. It's not uncommon. I personally did 2 rounds of auditions last week for one character for a game that's recording in Los Angeles. I did 1 round of auditioning, and then I was asked to do a second. And I did the second, and it went well, and I booked the job. But due to confidentiality, I can't tell you what that is. If you're concerned about leaking information about your game, or let's say you have a piece of narrative information that you don't want to reveal and don't want to reveal spoilers, it's acceptable to use scripts from other games or other films or even theatrical plays which have a similar emotional content. So for example, I once auditioned for Marvel's Venom 2, but I was using a script from a film called The Town with Ben Affleck. However, both of those scenes, the scene that I was given from Ben Affleck's The Town had a similar emotional content to the recall of the audition, the second round of the audition for the Marvel film. It's also a good idea to talk to the actors that you are auditioning. You don't want to end up working with somebody who's a jerk. It's good to get to know them. Hey, what are you up to? Where have you been? Tell us about your day. While that often makes actors feel a little bit awkward sometimes, it also gives you the chance to get to know them better as a person, because it's great if they're a wonderful actor, but it's going to suck if they're a jerk. If you've hired actors remotely and you want to check that their equipment is up to a certain standard, it's perfectly acceptable to ask them to do various technical takes. So for example, you might have the actor whisper or shout or speak at a normal speaking volume or speak in a way that's projected, as if I was speaking across a room. It's perfectly fine to get them to do that in order to test the sound quality of the recording space, because having a duvet over your head with a USB microphone is not the same as a professional grade studio. So it's always good to check what the recording space is like if you are recording remotely. As far as an actor's life goes, myself as an actor, I'm technically unemployed 90% of the year. I might work on a game for an hour, so I'm only really employed for 1 hour. And the other 23 hours of that day, I'm either sleeping or hoping that I find another job to pay my bills. I will personally pay for networking events, new equipment, software, repair of my equipment if it needs it, and all of that will come out of my own personal bank account, my own personal wallet, if you will. So there isn't anybody else paying for it. It's all on me. Unfortunately, actors cannot read your mind. It's a skill I'd love to have, but I just haven't developed it yet. If the actor doesn't know what's going on in the scene or what's going on with the story, whether it's an audition or whether you have booked that actor to perform in your game, without that information, they're not going to know much. Actors are really good at taking lots of pieces of information and emotionally processing them in order to give the performance that you're looking for. But with a lack of information, they can't really do much. It's like trying to make a cake. You have the ingredients, but you don't have the recipe. So it's not going to be as good as it could be. If you're worried about the information that you give the actors, if that information might have anything that's important to the game that might reveal plot lines or might be spoilers, you can always get them to sign a confidentiality agreement so that if there is a leak or if there is a piece of information that's revealed that you don't want to be revealed, you'll know who to blame. As mentioned, confidentiality agreements are very common. I specifically bought a premium DocuSign account, which is an application to sign documents digitally, because I regularly have to sign confidentiality agreements, or NDAs as they're known in English, quite on a regular basis. what's quite common and quite useful is in auditions and even during the actual recording of the game, let's say you have a scene in your game that's quite similar to another scene in another game or in another film or another piece of television. Let's say you have two characters speaking in your game. One is asking another character to give him something, and you could describe the scene as, it's like in The Godfather with Marlon Brando, where one character goes to the other and asks the Godfather for something. This is what we're going for with this scene in our game. That reference is great if the actor knows that scene. If the actor doesn't know that scene, it's useful to have the links of the scenes you are referencing or that you would like to reference available for the actor to either see ahead of time before the recording session or during the session. Speaking for long, if anybody has ever spoken for a long period of time, your voice gets tired. Just like if you go to the gym and you exercise, your muscles get tired. Anybody who has gone to a loud club or a loud bar and they're trying to have a conversation with somebody, they probably have to speak quite loudly if they want to be heard over the other noise. But speaking loudly and using the voice for a prolonged period of time will cause vocal damage. Fun fact, your vocal folds in your voice don't have a nerve ending. So you can never feel the damage of the vocal folds. What you end up feeling is all of the damage around the vocal folds instead. And if the vocal folds are not taken care of, you can end up with permanent vocal damage. It's always a good idea that if you have any scenes or any pieces of text that need to be shouted and have lots of effort behind them, to do those at the end. Because if you start with the loud and shouted scenes at the beginning, there's a high risk that you'll damage the actor's voice. And if they have a damaged voice at the beginning of the session and then you decide to do the very emotionally charged, intimate scenes later on, that damage of the voice will get recorded onto that performance. And there is no audio post-processing in the world that can remove the damaged vocal quality from the actor. If their voice is damaged, it will get recorded. And it's a great idea to do breaks. If your session is entirely screamed and shouted, your maximum time limit will be 2 hours, because after 2 hours, you start getting into the territory of the actor having a damaged voice. 4 hours is generally sort of the maximum for any type of vocal speaking in a voiceover recording. Beyond that, again, you risk vocal damage. Give the actors credit for their work, whether they are voice actors or whether they are motion capture performers. Put them in the credits. Make sure that you know how they would like their name to be spelt. Invite them to a conference to speak about your game, because it's great PR for the game. It's great PR for them. They get to post on Twitter or any social media platform that they are speaking at an event about playing whatever the name of their character is, in whatever the name of your project is, and so then suddenly you get additional digital real estate and access to social media accounts you might not have had access to because you have tagged or you have invited the actor to come and speak, or you've mentioned them in a social media post. You can also nominate them for awards in the game industry that have a performance category. I'll list those in a minute. Keep in contact with the actors that you've worked with. If you like them, follow them on Twitter or on Instagram or befriend them on Facebook. As I mentioned, it's great to tag them in your social media posts so that, again, they might have 10,000 followers because they're semi-famous on the internet, and your game might not have 10,000 followers, but suddenly you have access to their followers because you have tagged them in your game. It's also great to send the actors GOG or Steam codes, because then if they also stream, they can now stream the game and talk about their performance in the game, and then you get yourself a free streamer if they don't charge. Here is a list of awards for video games that have a performance category in them. I'll pause for just a second in case anybody wants to quickly take a picture. And I hope the translations are accurate. Again, I blame Google. Alrighty, thank you. So here are my final thoughts. It's a good idea to budget more than you think you need for voiceover, because voiceover can be expensive. It's more important to find the actors that you want to have in your game than just getting who's convenient. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Like I said, it's more important to cast who you would like than what's convenient. If you have to look a little bit longer or look a little bit harder to find the actors that you want in your project, that will always be more rewarding than simply just getting somebody in because you know them. It's great that you know them, but they might not give the performance that you're really looking for. And if you're spending several years working on a game, you wouldn't want certain scenes or portions of your game suddenly undermined or made lesser because of a bad performance from the actor, but at the time they were conveniently available. So find who you want, not who you need. And there is no such thing as too much communication. I would love to know what's going on with the game. If, for example, I record one day on a game, then maybe tell me, okay, we're all done recording, we won't need you anymore, or, hey, we will need you in the future, but we'll let you know when that is, or we'll keep you informed about checking your availability as an actor to see if you can record on certain dates going forward. You can be as liberal as you want with non-disclosure agreements. I'm happy to sign them any time of day, any day of the week. If that helps you, the developer, give me, the actor, the information I need in order to give the performance that you want. Also be patient with the voice actors, because you might be working for years with your development team and you see them every day, you have lunch with them, you go have beers with them, but the voice actor might come in and only work for an hour and then they leave, and you probably might not ever see them again. So keep in mind that they're a short-term contractor and your developers and colleagues on your team are there longer. They might not know the little quirks and little idiosyncrasies and little in-jokes of your company. So it's a good idea to be patient with them. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time. Большое спасибо.